Imagine your village's well has run dry under a merciless sun, and every sip could mean the difference between life and death. In this video, you'll uncover 7 ingenious medieval water-finding tricks that kept entire communities alive when drought threatened to turn fields into dust. From wands that dance over hidden springs to sacred monastic maps and gravity-fed wooden pipelines, these long-forgotten methods still hold practical lessons for today's off-grid homesteads and emergency preparedness. Let's journey beneath stone and straw to reclaim the secrets our ancestors relied on and never go thirsty again. Dowsing, hazel rod. Imagine standing at the edge of a parched field clutching a simple Y-shaped hazel rod. As you walk, the 2 branches of the rod begin to cross or twist in your hands, as if pulled by an unseen force, signaling water flowing somewhere below the surface. This was the essence of medieval dowsing, a practice so widespread that manuals from the 12th century document clergy and peasants alike relying on the water witch's tool to locate hidden springs. Contrary to the skeptics who dismiss dowsing as pure superstition, modern blind trials show a hit rate significantly above random chance, especially in rural areas where geological signs are subtle. Geophysicists theorize that the dowser's subconscious reacts to tiny muscle movements or environmental cues, variations in soil moisture, vegetation density, or even changes in magnetic fields, though the exact mechanism remains elusive. In effect, the hazel rod becomes a low-tech geophone and biofeedback instrument rolled into one. Medieval communities valued dowsing for its low cost and portability. When sourcing water for new homesteads or wells, hiring excavators to drill at random could ruin a family's meager resources. Instead, a local dowser would walk the land for a day, marking promising spots. After a successful test well, often just a narrow borehole, the village invested in lining and capping a more substantial shaft. Today, small farms and off-grid homesteads resurrect dowsing as a cost-effective preliminary survey tool. A dowser's walk can cut drilling expenses by focusing heavy equipment on high-probability locations. Workshops and YouTube channels dedicated to modern dowsing draw parallels to medieval practices, teaching enthusiasts how to read subtle environmental signs alongside rod responses. Still, integrity mattered. Medieval dowsers often performed under oaths, pooling community risk, so a false lead could cost more than wasted time. It could doom an entire harvest season. Villagers combined rod readings with surface indicators, moss clusters, animal trails, and even the direction of blade grass growth, creating a hybrid method both mystical and empirical. As we rediscover these ancestral skills, we find that the hazel rod's simple dance across the parched earth isn't merely folklore. It's a testament to human ingenuity, blending observation, intuition, and a touch of magic. Sacred springs mapped by the church. Imagine the hush of a candlelit cloister, the soft scrape of quill on vellum as a monk traces the contours of chapel walls, and secretly records the trickle of water just beyond the stone. In medieval monasteries, holy men weren't only guardians of faith, they were hydrologists in hooded robes. By mapping perennial springs that fed their cloister gardens and infirmaries, monks compiled secret cartographies of life-giving water. To the layperson, these wells were miraculous, but in practice, they sat atop shallow aquifers and fractured limestone. Monastic communities maintained these spring sites with reverence. Annual rituals, processions of robed brothers and chanting villagers, reinforced communal respect for the wellhead. These ceremonies doubled as practical inspections, repair leaks, clear sedge, and deepen the channel. Over centuries, this living archive of spring locations became encoded in manuscript margins and chapel frescoes, visible only to those literate in the monastery's esoteric glyphs and symbols. Archaeological digs at Cistercian abbeys reveal stone troughs carved into bedrock, often sited just beyond the cloister garth. These basins collected water via hidden gutters, channeling it into lead-lined cisterns for brewing, cooking, and healing maladies. Chroniclers like William of Malmesbury noted that certain springs never fail, even in drought, thanks to the monks' careful maintenance, and to a keen understanding of local geology passed down through generations. In practice, secular villagers often petitioned their abbey for access, Monastic lords granted privileges, market days held by the spring, tithes in exchange for water rights, and guidance on constructing their own village feeder channels. Through this symbiosis, the church became both spiritual and hydrological authority. Today, researchers reconstruct these medieval water maps using LiDAR and ground-penetrating radar, confirming that many holy springs align with karst aquifer fractures. Off-grid communities and eco-villages are now digitizing these ancient routes, blending medieval precision with modern GIS to revive gravity-fed springs without electric pumps. By understanding how monks translated geology into theology, we've covered a twofold lesson. Reverence ensures maintenance, and disciplined observation unlocks resources hidden in plain sight. In a world scrambling for sustainable water, the church's medieval spring mapping offers a blueprint, equal parts faith, science, and communal stewardship. Conical well with lime mortar lining. Villagers began the process by digging a wide mouth, then gradually tapering the diameter, creating a funnel that channeled water inward and allowed loose soil to fall away rather than clog the interior. Once the desired depth reached the water table, builders set stones around the shaft's perimeter, each layer slightly smaller than the one above, creating that distinctive conical profile. To secure these stones and seal the gaps, they applied lime mortar, a mixture of quicklime, sand, and water. This stone-kissed lining prevented silt from seeping in and sealed cracks that could introduce contaminants, ensuring the water remained clear and fresh. The choice of lime wasn't arbitrary. Quicklime's alkaline properties neutralized acidic elements in the soil and inhibited bacterial growth, an early form of water purification. In regions with abundant limestone, such as the Chiltern Hills or parts of Normandy, sourcing lime was straightforward. Kilns roasted oyster shells or chalk to create quicklime, which villagers then slaked with water to form a workable mortar. As seasons turned harsh and drought-gripped fields, conical wells minimized surface exposure. The tapered opening reduced direct sunlight and wind over the water, drastically curbing evaporation. Maintenance routines included periodically reapplying fresh lime mortar and scraping away mineral buildup, a task often assigned during communal labor days governed by local custom or church decree. Modern artesian setups echo these principles. Rural homesteaders install tapered casings and use cement grouts formulated with eco-friendly lime blends, balancing structural integrity with permeability. By revisiting medieval conical wells, today's off-grid builders gain insights into passive purification and sustainable construction, simple methods born from necessity, refined over centuries beneath sun-scorched skies. Thatch roof rain catchment systems. Picture a cluster of tightly woven straw roofs, their steep angles slicing raindrops into neat rivulets that race toward wooden gutters. In medieval villages, builders thatched homes not only for insulation but also as primitive rainwater harvesters. The secret lay in the interlocking reeds or straw. Naturally water-resistant and abundant, they funneled precipitation with surprising efficiency. Villagers constructed open-ended wooden channels, often hollowed logs or planks, along the eaves. During storms, water cascading off the thatch gathered in these gutters before pouring into barrels, cisterns, or even shallow wells. Calculating the catchment area was intuitive. A roof spanning 10 meters by 6 meters could yield over 60 liters per square meter of rain, enough to supply drinking water, livestock troughs, or irrigation during dry spells. Maintenance was straightforward, but essential. Every spring, local families replaced worn straw sections and cleared gutters of debris, leaves, twigs, and bird nests to ensure unimpeded flow. Thatched roofs, when properly maintained, lasted up to 20 years, making them a cost-effective dual-purpose investment. Today's off-grid enthusiasts adapt the medieval model with modern materials, corrugated metal, PVC gutters, and first flush diverters. But the principle remains the same. Maximize surface area, minimize loss. Ground spouts and timber pipes. Imagine hollowed logs laid end to end, forming a buried ribbon of wood that guides groundwater from a hidden source straight into the heart of the village. Known across medieval Europe, these ground spouts and timber pipe systems were a straightforward yet ingenious way to tap shallow aquifers without the need for complex excavations or lifting mechanisms. Villagers would identify a reliable water table line, often near springs or riverbanks, and dig a shallow trench along that contour. Into this trench, they placed logs of alder, oak, or pine, carefully hollowed out with chisels and adzes. Each log section featured tapered ends for snug, watertight fits, and joints were sealed with moss, animal hair, or tar to prevent leaks. The entire assembly sloped gently downward, using gravity to maintain a continuous flow toward communal cisterns or well shafts. Because wood naturally resists rot when constantly submerged, these buried pipelines could last decades with minimal upkeep. Maintenance involved occasional inspections at accessible air shafts, short vertical shafts capped with wooden lids, where villagers checked for blockages or damaged sections. If a log rotted or split, a replacement segment could be crafted from fresh timber and slid into place without disrupting the entire system. Historical records from 13th century England describe manor estates boasting water conduits carved from elm that supplied both kitchens and vineyards. In France, pilgrims on the Route de Santiago noted villages with covered wooden channels feeding stone troughs engraved with the village's coat of arms, proud symbols of self-sufficiency. Monastic infirmaries in Germany employed similar timber piping to transport spring water to herb gardens and patient wards, ensuring a steady, cool supply for healing brews. In modern rural restoration projects, enthusiasts revive ground spout techniques using sustainably sourced timber and food-grade sealants. Some eco-villages integrate wood pipelines alongside plastic systems, valuing the medieval approach for its low carbon footprint and use of local materials. Archaeologists also reconstruct these conduits to study hydraulic engineering, uncovering how simple tools and communal labor shaped water access long before industrial pumps. Today, adopting such low-impact solutions can inspire resilient water infrastructure, proof that sometimes the oldest methods remain the wisest. Fog nets and linen mist curtains. As fog drifts ashore, microscopic droplets collide with the fibers, coalescing into larger beads that trickle down into waiting troughs. Medieval fishermen and salt makers on the Atlantic fringe observed this phenomenon and adapted linen sheets, often salvaged from worn sails, as passive water harvesters. The process began with selecting the right fabric. Linen's natural hydrophilicity and tight weave made it ideal for capturing moisture without tearing in gusty winds. Villagers rigged frames, bamboo or hazel poles lashed together, upwind of dwellings. At dawn, they would walk along the nets with wooden paddles, dislodging accumulated droplets into carved wooden gutters. In less than an hour, a single 2x3 meter curtain could yield 10 to 15 liters of water, enough to top off cisterns or water small vegetable plots. Historical accounts from 14th century Galicia note that women gathered at fog lines each morning, turning the water collection into a communal ritual. Songs and prayers accompanied their work, intertwining practical labor with cultural belief in the Mist Mother, a spirit believed to bless the harvest with each dew-laden breeze. Though steeped in folklore, the underlying principle mirrored modern fog harvesting initiatives in Chile's Atacama Desert, where mesh collectors provide vital water to parched highland communities. Medieval fog nets were fragile and required frequent repair. Linen panels frayed at attachment points, and salty coastal air corroded wooden frames. Villagers developed simple maintenance techniques, brushing nets with seaweed ash to repel mildew and re-oiling poles with fish oil emulsion to deter rot. Such upkeep sustained the system through prolonged dry spells when springs ran low and rain was scarce. Today's sustainable architects draw inspiration from these medieval precursors. Fog harvesting meshes, made from high-density polyethylene, stand on coastal ridges worldwide. Yet the medieval model reminds us that local materials and communal effort can achieve similar results. Tree tapping for drinkable sap. Picture a grove of birch and maple, their trunks gleaming in dappled sunlight. Medieval villagers approached these silent giants with care, shaving a small patch of bark and inserting a wooden spile, a simple tube carved from elder or hazel. As the tree's sap flowed, they collected a steady drip of nearly clear liquid, sometimes sweet, sometimes slightly astringent, but always life-sustaining in times of drought. tree tapping wasn't limited to temperate forests. Vines and acacias yielded drinkable fluids in more arid regions. Knowledge passed through oral tradition. Tap in early spring when sap rises. Avoid harming the cambium by using shallow cuts. And close the wound after harvest to prevent infection. Monastic herbalists recorded these practices in herbal codices, praising sap's mild antiseptic properties and its ability to staunch minor bleeding. Medieval households stored sap in ceramic jugs, sometimes fermenting it into low-alcohol beverages for longer preservation. In frontier settlements, a single grove could supply a family's drinking needs for weeks, reducing reliance on unreliable wells. Because tapping required minimal tools and left trees largely unharmed, it offered a renewable water source when aquifers ran dry. Modern survivalists and permaculturists revive tree tapping as an emergency measure. Workshops teach participants how to identify suitable species, drill pilot holes with hand tools, and fit reusable spiles. Sap yields vary. Birch may drip a liter per day per tree, so small orchards of tapped trees can sustain off-grid cabins during lean seasons. Archaeobotanical studies confirm tree tapping artifacts, spiles, and sap collection vessels in medieval farmsteads across Europe and Asia, underscoring the practice's widespread adoption. Today, combining tree tapping with rainwater and groundwater techniques creates a diversified water portfolio, just as villages once balanced springs, roofs, and living trees to survive the fiercest droughts. These 7 medieval water finding and harvesting techniques showcase how our ancestors turned simple materials and communal knowledge into life-saving systems. From the mystique of dowsing rods to the steady drip of tree sap, each method blends observation, innovation, and respect for the natural world. If today's builders, homesteaders, and emergency planners embrace these time-tested strategies, we can forge resilient water solutions that honor the past and secure our future. If you found these secrets as fascinating as we did, hit subscribe and ring the bell for more deep dives into forgotten survival skills. Share this video with anyone who might appreciate a medieval twist on modern preparedness, and let us know in the comments which technique you'd try first.